Hello there! I'm Elizabeth, otherwise known as Expressions of My Voice, for my own YouTube channel, and I'm here with our first TheatreHoes video, the topic of which, as you may be able to guess by the title, is how I prepare for auditions specifically for melodrama, because that's coming up here. So yeah, let's get into the video. Okay, so first off, let me explain what exactly a melodrama is. A melodrama is a play, usually 3 acts. Here at least, it's usually set in some sort of old-timey Western setting, but that may not be the case for every single melodrama. And it's typically a dramatic work in which the plot, which is typically sensational and designed to appeal strongly to the emotions, take precedence over detailed characterization. Characters are often simply drawn and may seem stereotypical. And if that explanation sounds like it's out of a Wikipedia page, that's because I referenced Wikipedia because I wasn't sure how to explain it. Another thing with the melodrama is that the word itself, melodrama, comes from melodramatic, which means exaggerated and emotional or sensational, sentimental or sensationalized, over dramatic. And that's a very fitting description for how you're meant to act when in a melodrama. It's very important to know that if you're acting in a melodrama, or if you're going to see a melodrama, that the actors are going to be very exaggerated and playing on the stereotypes of their character. So, honestly, as an actor in a melodrama, you want, during rehearsals, to be told to tone it back a little bit. That is your ultimate goal. And another important thing to know with melodramas is that there are always, usually 4 specific types that are always in a melodrama. Those types are the hero, the heroine, the villain, and the villainess. There's usually also some sort of sidekick for the hero or the heroine, perhaps some kind of grandma or aunt or mother to the heroine, and sometimes a father to go with her, or grandfather or something. And then the villain usually has a henchman, and sometimes the henchman will even have a henchman. Here are a few brief explanations of the 4 main types, along with a quick explanation of the sidekick and the henchman. Okay, so the hero. He's our main male. He is the guy that the audience is supposed to cheer for and root for because he's the good guy, with his white cowboy hat or other lightly colored garb, or just in general his clean, nice, good-looking, poster boy type look. He can have any kind of role from things to a sheriff or a guitar-slinging good guy, cowboy, or even a shipping clerk from the railroad. Believe me, that's actually what a hero in a melodrama is. He's always heroic, and he does the right thing. He tends to have some kind of previous connection to the heroine, as he's usually her love interest, and vice versa. And speaking of the heroine, she's our main female. She's usually very sweet and at least gentle looking. Think of like the ingenue in musicals. And that's essentially the type of the heroine. She's often a damsel in distress, though she's not always. There are cases where it's the heroine who saves the day. And oftentimes, if she has some sort of profession, she works in a hotel, or she's a schoolmarm, in other words, a teacher, or some other sort of quote-unquote traditionally feminine profession. She usually has some sort of well-standing within whatever area she lives in. Like, if an example is she could be like the mayor's daughter or something. And she's usually or at least oftentimes, she's an object of the villain, and he tries to use her to his advantage, be it for fiscal reasons, or physical reasons, or just because he's trying to lure the hero into his trap. And speaking of, our villain, he's the main bad guy, usually the one the audience will boo for. You can usually spot him out in a crowd because he's in black and reds and purples or golds or something like that. Darker colors that are usually associated with villains and stuff. He'll often wear like a top hat too. Usually, he's pretty intelligent, at least to some sort of a point. After all, there's gotta be some sort of hole in his plan, or it's just not very good to begin with. Something so that if someone messes up, that it'll be ruined and the hero will save the day, as usually happens. If he's not super smart and ends up foiling his own plan, that's something that does happen. If he doesn't foil his own plan, usually someone else on his side will. He also usually has some sort of stereotypical laugh. I've heard people do the typical mwahaha and sorts of laughs. And I've also heard straight up Waluigi type laughs and shit. He's usually after money, power, revenge, or some sort of a mixture of those. And now the villainess. The villainess is the main female bad guy. She's the one who the audience will go because they used to boo and hiss the villain, but then they had nothing to do to the villainess. So at least here, we made it so that they hiss the villainess. She's usually pretty much always seductive and saucy, very much so fitting with the vamp archetype or the femme fatale type. She can be kind of ditzy sometimes, but she can also be just as smart, if not smarter, than the villain. She's usually the one who will distract the hero, and even if he isn't distracted by, like, her body, her looks, her charm, she'll find some other way to get him out of the picture for a little while. 'Cause, I mean, hey, if you can't join them, beat them. And as someone who doesn't see themselves as sexy but has played the villainess before, this can be a very fun role to play, but it can also be very hard to play. It's like if you have to come out of your comfort zone, so like it can be difficult when you have to come out of your comfort zone because you aren't used to that type of role. And now for a quick explanation on the sidekick and the henchman. We'll start with the sidekick. Usually fairly similar to the hero, though usually not quite seen as heroic as the hero, as the sidekick can be pushed around by the villain and stuff, whereas the hero usually isn't as easily pushed around. Not always a male. There are female sidekicks. In fact, in both of the melodramas I've been in so far, the sidekicks have both been female. Usually fairly close with the hero or the heroine, or both, but never really to the level where they could really be a love interest for either, because that would get in the way of the hero-heroine love interest whole dealio. And then the henchman, usually capable to a point, can be fairly bumbling, usually the one to mess up the plans of the villain if someone on his side is messing them up. And if not him, then it's an even more bumbling henchman to the henchman. The actual henchman, however, can also be a bit of a slime ball, and if it's not a good balance of bumbling slime ball, typically that's when you'll have a really bumbling henchman to the henchman that will come in and fuck things up. But yeah, now that we know some of the characters and what a melodrama is, let's get into how I personally prepare for auditioning for a melodrama. Which, the thing is, timing is perfect for that. Because as I'm recording this, there's about a week until auditions on May 14th and 15th. There's about a week when I'm uploading it too. But it's soon, so typically with how we do it here, we have cold readings, but the things I do to prepare are simple. I look into the melodrama as much as I can. There's only so much I've been able to look into here this year, as the melodrama was written by the guy who's directing it and hasn't been done before. But sometimes with a more well-known melodrama that's been done before, you can do a quick Google search and, well, you can learn quite a bit about what that melodrama is, and you can even find a PDF file of the script and read through it a little bit. But this melodrama seems really interesting anyway, so if you're in a similar case where you can't find any information, just look at the audition info and make sure you know as much as you can. I personally like to fill out my audition forms way before the actual auditions. The time of which I fill them out really depends on the show and stuff, but this year I filled out my form for the melodrama back in mid-April. And we tend to do actual cold readings for the cast of the melodrama. This year I think we're also going to be doing some improv and stuff. But you don't really have to prepare much here, at least for a melodrama, aside from the audition form. And even then, you don't have to have that filled out before you get to the auditions. They usually have audition forms at the theater for you to fill out. I also tend to figure out what I'm wearing and how I'm doing my hair and makeup, probably at earliest the week before auditions, if not the week of. Since the auditions are early on in the week, I'm preparing what I'm gonna wear, or I'm starting to prepare what I'm wearing and how I'm gonna do my hair and makeup now, because since it's on a Monday and a Tuesday, the 14th and 15th, I won't really have much time unless I prepare this week. So this is because I do it for auditions in general, because I tend to get more anxious about auditions than I do for actual shows in acting. So I feel like the less I have to worry about and be anxious about, the better. I also tend to make sure on the day of auditions I've eaten a good meal before auditions. I try not to eat super close to the auditions because I don't want to have to worry about food in my teeth or bad breath or feeling uncomfortably full. I also bring water to drink during auditions because it's good to stay hydrated. And that's just something I do for auditions in general. And yeah, that's really all I do to prepare for the auditions for the melodrama, because here in Wyoming, with how we do it, we don't really have a lot that you need to prepare. If you ever get the chance, I really would recommend you go see a melodrama or even audition to be in one. They're really fun. It's got audience participation, so it's really a bit of a breed of its own, but it is so fun, and it is really just a fun show to be a part of. So yeah, I hope this video was fun to watch. It was so fun to make, so if you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe down below and hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time we upload. So yeah, that is all. Thanks for watching!